All right, gang. I always love talking to the guest that we have for you this week on the show. She is a repeat guest and such a rad one, in fact, that our own personality and co-moderator Charlie was like, "Hey, can I join so I can
Of
talk with
course.
her as well?" And so Charlie is here with me, and we are here to talk to the great Anastasia Elfman, who has a lot of rad things coming up. First and foremost, she has the Return of the Living Dead 3 live screening. And Brian Yuzna is going to be at this, and he's going to do a Q&A following the film. That is, of course, if he can survive Anastasia and her bloody burlesque show beforehand. And I think that Brian has a lot of work cut out for him to make it to that Q&A. But all you guys, Return of the Living Dead 3 fans, you don't want to miss this. This is happening. If you're watching the interview video when we post this is happening this Saturday. Today is Monday upon the video posting. If you're listening, today is Tuesday upon the podcast feed, but you still have plenty of time to pick up your tickets and be part of what is going to be a rad evening this Saturday night, June 7th, 9:45 p.m. This is going to be a hell of a time. And we are so excited to talk to Anastasia about it, man. So thank you for coming on board. This seems like an awesome thing that you guys are putting together. Tell me about how this all kind of got rolling with you and Brian.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. I'm so excited to be back. I love the podcast and love both of you. And I'm just so happy to chat about all the kooky and spooky stuff that I'm up to. So, how did this come up? Brian is I've known him for a long time, and he's one of my husband's best friends, and he's a neighbor. And so we see him, at least once a week for cigars and a drink and barbecuing. And he has a screening during Shakagogo Film Festival, and so he thought it would be kind of wild for me to do a bloody burlesque because that's kind of what I'm known for. I'm known for creating these ultra immersive and fan based horror burlesque to intro films, and so it's like giving the fans another reason to come out to the theater and support their favorite horror creators, like Brian Yuzna.
Absolutely. Well, can I ask my follow-up question?
Yes, Charlie, go ahead to ask your question.
How do you prepare for a one-night performance like that? We were talking a little bit before the podcast, and you were saying how you're just totally immersed in creating this character in preparation for next week. So what all is involved in prepping for a one-time stage performance like this?
Oh man, I mean, I don't think we have enough time for me to go into all of the fun prep, but I kind of live, eat, and breathe these performances, and so I have to be very inspired by what I'm doing. So I always have to be inspired by the film because I like to take a character or a vibe or something like that from the film when I'm creating these special hyper themed and unique pre-shows. Mm-hmm. And so I mean, this time I ended up having a little bit of extra time. Usually I don't have so much prep time. So I kind of had a month in advance to kind of gather my team, because while I am very involved in the prep of every single aspect from watching the movie, whatever film it is, 1,000 times and picking out my music and listening to that a million times, I also have a team, a really talented creative team who help me with tailoring and effects and music and video editing, because usually my numbers are like multimedia. So there'll be something incredible on the screen. So it's almost like being inside of like a fun music video, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, trying to work out, be good while I'm eating, and just creating the props. Like I just finished, well, I'm kind of halfway on a new like safe version of a Julie. She has like all of this hardware. And while I can't fully create it like as an exact replica, because I want Brian Yuzna to be safe and I don't want to accidentally like poke out his eye, I did my best to do like a safe version. But yeah, it's wild. And it's crazy right now because our daughter Audrey, it's like her finals week, and so I'm like juggling making sure like getting the finals done, and it's a wild time. I don't know if I answered that correctly, but it's everything that I think about until showtime, and then afterwards I'm like, oh, is that like I should do this again? And so I'm like hoping that we get another booking or something like that, because this is like my favorite, and it's like one of my specialties, and it's like my happy place. And almost how I honor my favorite horror creators is by like doing these kind of numbers, because at the end of the day, this is from my heart, and it's almost like I almost get too shy to show it, if that makes sense, because it's so personal, because I love every like film that I've done this for. And I have it for like, I've done it for like Sante Sangre in Mexico City, for the Horowski family. And I have a Suspiria one, the original. And I have the Howling for Joe Dante. And this stuff that I do for like Ricky, my husband, Richard Elfman's films, like Forbidden Zone and Bloody Bridget and stuff. But yeah, it's just my entire life.
Yeah.
No, and the way that you describe it hits really hard, because I think like the horror industry, no matter what, you know, filmmaker level that you're at, and all the people that I've interviewed everything from people who do like YouTube series for nothing all the way to, you know, Kane Hodder and Bill Moseley type stuff. And so I like to say I've covered a pretty good gamut as far as horror fans and filmmakers and actors and actresses and stuff. And one thing that is pretty universal is everyone who's making horror content is doing so because they love horror, and it's like an homage to the horror that they love the most. Like how you're saying you want this to be this homage to these filmmakers every time you go out on stage is really rad to hear, because it's like every time I pick up a camera, I'm thinking about these, you know, movies A through, you know, for me it's like 4 or 5 that really like stick to me. And so it's like you think of these movies and you do the best you can to honor them, type of a thing. And so yeah, what you said really does hit home, and it's cool to hear.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like I get these special opportunities, and it doesn't like I totally value every opportunity that I've had to be able to create and have my favorite horror icons watch, or in this case, Brian Yuzna being involved in these numbers. And it's just, I don't know, it's, you have to be a fan to do this kind of work, right? Like, and being also like a monster kid, it's like, this is completely a dream come true. I like have to, while I'm not stressing about how I'm going to do certain things, because a lot of times with these numbers, it's like a sleight of hand, like get the audience's focus over there while I like grab a brain out of my like back pocket or something goofy, you know? But yeah, I don't know. You just have to be so committed. I don't know. I lost my train of thought. Just started about my number. I was like, oh wait, did I figure that out yet?
Well, you used one term there, monster kid, that all of us immediately recognize. I became a monster kid when I used to stay up really late with my mom, and we would watch the horror films that they played on the local stations late on the weekends. How did you become a monster kid?
Ooh. So, okay. I had kind of a weird upbringing. Both of my parents were career Marines. And then when I came around, they kind of like they retired and then became kind of hippie-ish. And so I have the strict upbringing, but also with like weird ideas. So I wasn't allowed to like play video games or have a computer. But on the other hand, I had a huge upbringing in all of the classics, classic films, silent, pre-code, and of course a huge exposure to genre and horror. And so, yeah, a lot of my free time was besides, I grew up in the theater. I'm classically trained in ballet. I played the cello, and yeah, and I'm an actor. And so, besides doing all of that kind of stuff, I was watching a lot of classic films. So that's my exposure and how, and going to, rental stores and watching things on cable, like PBS was great. And, all of these like channels, they were really like showing all of these like incredible films, and they just like warped me and made me the crazy, insane person I am now.
Sounds familiar.
It's funny that you guys got the exposure to what sounds like the classic, horror films and classic monsters at an early age. I almost had to go backwards because my first real horror exposure as a kid, our dog died, and my mom made us watch Pet Sematary.
Oh my God.
Oh, no. I don't know. That feels like the worst idea ever. I'm so sorry.
So then
also your mom kind of sounds bad. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure where you were emotionally as a child.
Anastasia, if you knew Jim's mom, that would make perfect sense.
She just like finished reading the book coincidentally. And I remember like we watched the movie within the week of the dog passing away, and that, yeah. But the real first like super scary movie my dad showed me and told me like as we rented it was Carpenter's Halloween. And I remember thinking, this doesn't look scary. What are you talking about? Looking at the cover at Blockbuster and not being able to finish the movie that night. So that movie, scarred me for a very long time. And so, but I lived in that kind of era, that 70s, 80s era. And it wasn't until later I went back and, monster kid, as the term is. I feel like our generation, the 40-something generation, my circle and friends, we're more, slasher pals or whatever term you want to use, the Michael, the Jason, the Freddy, Leatherface. It's interesting to hear you guys, getting that exposure and falling in love with the, Lugosi's and Karloff's and stuff.
I was going to say, while I admire those, and I am also a fan of like 70s, 80s slashers, of course. I mean, how can you not? But I am a huge fan of like Lon Chaney Sr. He's my idol, and probably my first horror film was 1925's Phantom of the Opera, and I love obviously Lugosi, and the Invisible. I mean, I'm just looking at your background, and it's like all of my favorite films, But all of those kind of like early horror films, and like those are the ones for me. I mean, when you think about like Lon Chaney Sr., there was no jobs or unions that were doing makeup or effects. He had to do it all on his own. Don't get me started. He's my idol. So like we could just do a whole podcast on him alone.
Yeah.
No, just the story of the Phantom makeup. I just watched the Phantom of the Opera, like a month ago or so. And just the story of what he had to go through to do that makeup and how he was in pain constantly during that performance is amazing. Amazing story.
Yeah, you can say that about almost every single makeup effect that he did. I mean, if you look at also the torture that he would put himself through with the hunchback. You know, he would wear like a huge, heavy hump. Not to mention, he did like severe eye damage on himself with that makeup. And from then on, I believe he had to wear glasses because of the damage. And then if you think about like, what was it, The Penalty, where he designed a harness that would hold his legs back so that he looked like he actually had amputated legs, and he would fall repeatedly on his knees, and then he had severe damage to his legs from that point on. So he was constantly injuring himself for art, which it's very inspiring, and I understand because I'm a dancer, so I've done a lot of performances on broken toes, and you just have to smile through it because the show must go on. There's no take two, you know, with a live performance, and you know, the audience is there and you want to give them the best show possible. So I totally understand that. And for him, he also came from live performance and theater, and he was a choreographer at first and a comedian, and came from the vaudeville circuit. So it's wonderful to see all of that. But yes, incredible.
And you have, you know, the fact that they have more recognition, one may argue, right now in the horror fandom than they've had in, you know, the last 30-something years. Oh, Kitty.
Kitty.
No.
She's been over my legs, and so I thought she would say hi. I've been doing a lot of my interviews in our lower office, and so it's been about a year since she's joined me. So
oh, how nice.
This is our kitty, Selena.
Oh, Selena.
Nice to meet you, Selena.
And I stole her from Hollywood Forever Cemetery, which is a huge, famous cemetery here in Hollywood, when I was visiting Peter Lorre.
Oh, how cool.
Wow.
So we rescued her, and now she lives with us.
That's a great
awesome.
Story. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Hi.
Okay, now she's over it. She's like, thank you,
Anastasia, you mentioned your training in ballet. And when I think of burlesque and ballet, I think of, you know, kind of like ballet being maybe like classical music and burlesque being like jazz. You know, it's just kind of free form. And how did your background as a dancer, how did that impact your burlesque performances?
Well, I believe my strong dancing background impacts everything that I do and helps me with my prep, because I come at everything as a dancer. And so I do lots and lots of rehearsals. It's kind of like the rehearsals are done once I'm dead, and then let's do it a couple more times. So that's been an interesting switch, because I find a lot of times when I'm working with actors that don't have that kind of training or theater training, they don't want to rehearse at all, which is like tough for me because I'm an over rehearser. But how did that impact my burlesque? Okay, here's the thing. I don't do like classical burlesque. I can. I'm just more excited by doing something horrific. It's kind of like I kind of akin my performance, kind of like, you know, the remake of 13 Ghosts, The Jackal. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Kind of what I'm doing the entire time. Okay. It's just very intense and insane and gory, and I want to shock and entertain the audience. And I don't really have time when I'm up there to be perfect like Dita Von Teese. Like, that's why I don't like people to take video or they have to show me the photos first, because usually I'm like, looking like a maniac. But yeah, I mean, my background in dance definitely helps. It helps me problem solve a lot of things, because it's like, I like to have everything like it. By the time I'm hitting the stage, I'm not there. It's all muscle memory. I want to have it down pat, because a lot of times I don't have time to see this stage or this space until it's showtime. So I don't have that luxury. So I have to be bringing like 1,000% professionalism once I get out there. But yeah, so I love my dancing background, and my teachers who like to carry a cane and swat us, and so now I stay in line and I practice a lot.
Cool.
So you just said the first time that you see the certain stages sometimes is like right before you actually are doing the set. That's pretty wild, especially when you're doing it like in a case like Saturday when you're doing it with somebody. That, I mean, so do you, when you are practicing, do you have like a certain space that you mark out and you're like, okay, I know for sure on average this stage is going to give me this amount of square feet to plan my thing?
Yes, ideally I would know what the dimensions are and what I have. Like, do I have to accommodate going down a flight of stairs to get off of the stage into the audience? Because I like to be, in a nice professional way. I like to be in the face of the audience, and usually I'm doing like a balloon number, so I like to tease people. You wouldn't believe how terrified people are of balloons popping in their face, but I'm always like, it's okay, guys. I'm afraid too, but I haven't lost an audience member yet, so it's going to be okay. But yeah, so I mean, ideally, I would know the dimensions. I would have dialogue with the lighting, with the projectionist. I'd see it from the sound booth. I would get video of it. Like, there's all of these micro things that I'm like through my list. But a lot of times I'm doing this with a festival who's only in said theater for like a weekend or something. And so sometimes it's just, it's a make it work moment. And I feel good enough within my artistic talents and abilities that I can make anything work. Like, I've done numbers in, in people's backyards, on coffee tables. I've done it and walkways. Sometimes I get a stage, sometimes I don't. It's part of the fun and the excitement of live performance for me. And it's keeping that kind of vaudevillesque live performance, still in the theater, which is really important, I think. And what sets my events and the events that I'm a part of, it sets them apart from other things, because like so far I haven't seen anybody do this kind of a performance, which I'm not saying I don't want anybody to do.
Right.
Don't put me out of a job.
Yeah.
I want to only do it. Get any ideas?
Well, one thing I will say is you are definitely not, the whole burlesque thing is awesome, but Anastasia is definitely not just that, especially to the horror community, because just not too long ago we were introduced to the character Bloody Bridget, and the success that your husband Richard and yourself have had with Bloody Bridget, which Brian is coincidentally a producer of, has been really fun to watch. And congratulations so much to you for all the success that Bloody Bridget has had. And it is really been awesome, because that interview Charlie mentioned that we did during COVID, we met Richard and Anastasia for the first time like right before Bloody Bridget was gonna like have its premiere. Like, I want to say it was within 6 months. Maybe even sooner. And then, so Bloody Bridget came out, and then through the time that Bloody Bridget has come out, Anastasia has come back on the podcast a few times. So to watch it progress has been awesome. And now she sent me this so I can play this. I hope.
I don't know. What is it?
This is pretty cool.
All right.
We are getting a Bloody Bridget like horror host episodic type show. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes. I'm working with my husband Richard, and Brian Yuzna is going to be a producer on it as well. And so I just feel like it's time to have like another fun horror hostess, and I'm pulling inspiration from like Elvira, Vampira, the Crypt Keeper, and a little bit of Pee-wee's Playhouse because I'm really goofy, and I like that kind of stuff. Those are all people and characters that have inspired me and have made me this insane creature that you see right now. So yeah, and I want to also use it. It's kind of like I want to talk about an older classic that I love, and then a new horror film to kind of expose the audience to more than just what's out in the theater right now. Because I find that a lot of people, while they know about Bride of Frankenstein or The Invisible Man, they've never seen it. And so I want to talk about it and make it, like easy to digest kind of info and inspire them to dig deeper as well. And I want to get my favorite creators, a lot of like practical effects artists, animators. I want to, get horror icons and interview them on the show as well. So I want to give space to my favorite creators and shows and movies. And it's kind of what I do anyways. This is like my favorite thing is like to talk about my favorite creators. I've been doing a lot of podcasts, doing deep dives on horror films, and ironically on Pet Sematary I just did.
Don't mention that to Jim.
It's in my brain right now.
Yeah. Dude, it's that movie, man. I'm telling you, it'll leave deep scars.
It's so great. And I've read, I have severe dyslexia, so I read a lot with like Audible. And when I do a lot of driving too, because our daughter goes to high school in downtown LA at an arts high school. And so I've got a long commute back and forth, like, a couple times a day. And so I do a lot of reading in the car. And I'll tell you, so far, my favorite book has been Pet Sematary, with Dexter, Michael C. Hall, reading it and doing
wow. Oh shit.
And
Perfect.
If I could ever do direct a new version of Pet Sematary, I would cast him in a minute to be the lead. But I also love Dexter, and so it's kind of been like Dexter's been reading me a bedtime story.
Oh, cool.
It's so great. He does. You would think that Michael C. Hall doing the daughter's voice or Gage's voice would be weird, but you just accept it. It's so good. Wow. It's so good.
That's great.
That makes it worth checking out, obviously. Then.
Yes, please do. I mean, I don't see any backing from Audible or Stephen King, but please go listen to that Audible version with him narrating.
The movie is is creepy as in itself. But that story, man, like everybody gives it and The Shining the majority of like the Stephen King conversations. But man, Pet Sematary, in my opinion, is scarier.
I think they forget about it because it's so incredible. Just the story. And I mean, okay, not to get too deep diving into that. I wish I have watched every single version of, Pet Sematary 2, the remake, the Bloodlines, which is like a prequel. And nobody does it right. Nobody talks like, where the heck is Norma character, who's like one of the leads? Nobody like the Wendigo. They like it's not. Yeah. So many crucial plot points are missing from all of these versions, and I would love to do like a 3-part, film series, or even just like a HBO series and do it justice,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If Stephen King's listening, I'm your blonde.
Talk about doing roles justice. What is this about? I hear about you and Brian getting together, and you're going to be the bride in a stage performance or a stage show. Bride of Reanimator.
Okay, so you know how I told you that we like visit with Brian like at least once a week. During one of our like barbecue dinners, he brings up that he's thinking about creating a one-woman show for me to be the bride of Bride of Reanimator, and like now my mind is spiraling because how incredible would that makeup be and performance, and to have Brian write a piece for me, because there's been some really incredible like one person show, like Jeffrey Combs's what was it?
Poe, Edgar Allan Poe.
Yes, that was incredible, right?
Yeah.
And so I mean, I feel like I could probably hold it together for like whatever the time is for a one-woman show, rather than my 3-minute performance, my like burlesque performance.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so we're working on that. He has some ideas of where that would be good to premiere, and then maybe bring it back to LA and have like a little short run or something like that. But it's for me, I love creating, I love performing, I love working with my friends. And so whenever somebody has an idea, I'm generally, unless like I've got other commitments, I'm generally like, yes, please. Because like I feel like that's how we get dreamers. That's how we let people do what they're inspired to do. It's like I feel like more people need to say yes to get these ideas going. And so I'm doing my little part in that.
Yeah, definitely. That's really cool to hear, because that is one thing that I do think that the horror community does more than most of the film industry as a whole, is come across like very like supportive, family like, almost like there is like a bond of. The only other time I've ever felt it is like at a Star Wars thing, like where everyone has this common love of Star Wars. It's the same thing with horror fans and horror filmmakers and stuff. Like you have this bond of common interest of horror. So it's really cool that, I don't see it at least exist in the, romantic comedy subgenre of film. You know what I mean? Like horror, it's pretty prominent when you go to a horror convention, or you go to a screening of a movie, or you go to a movie screening that has a show like Anastasia's burlesque pre-show before the movie starts this Saturday. Like there is that common love of all things horror, man, and it is a thing that is unique, I think, to horror, but it is very cool.
I think that everybody in the horror community accepts the differences, and how that we're not all the same, and each one of us has our own little special niche. And
well, you see it.
I love that too.
You see it a lot in horror too, where how Anastasia is saying that she says yes to support fellow creators. Like we have a director friend of ours, Sean, and he just made a movie called Cannibal Comedian, and he has gotten along his journey to work with some cool people. Felissa Rose and Bill Moseley are really the top two that just slam in your mind, that I know most horror fans will know. But he says, it's a dream every day that he gets to do that. It's a dream come true. And he has a day job. It hasn't, made him millions of dollars, and it's all that he can do, but he does it because he loves it. And that's what it is to be a horror fan, I think. So
yes, exactly. Google gobble, right? One of us.
Yeah.
I love Todd Browning as well, if it doesn't, tell. But yes, I feel like a true like horror fan, or at least in my case, it's like I was an outcast growing up. I was different from everyone else. I feel like I was in the wrong generation. Nobody knew who I was talking about when I was talking about like Lon Chaney Sr. or Bela Lugosi, or any of these like wonderful creators. And it's like, with that in mind, it's like, of course, it's like, come on, just like, let's be friends, let's be pals and help each other out. I mean, that's where I come in. Also, it's like that theater mentality, the show must go on, and dancing. It's like, no, when you keep something from someone, it ends up ruining the whole show. So it's like, you've got to give 1,000% all the time and help somebody else out, when you're performing. So yes, I totally understand that. And also, we're friends with Sean, and we're going to be screening well, I don't know if he announced it yet, so I don't know, but we're going to be involved. We're going to be involved with his film festival that's happening in October, I think. So we're going to be there and doing
Fantastic.
you could probably guess what we're going to be doing. But we love him, and he was at a film festival that we were at, Mightier Than the Sword, and I believe it was like North Carolina, and it was like just when the fires out here were happening, and like the day before, because we had horrible fires in January, like literally we live right under the Hollywood sign, and it was the first time ever. Rick's lived in this house for almost 30 years and he's never experienced this before. But anyways, it was like we almost didn't go because of the fires and the state of emergency that we had back then. But we ended up going, and everything was safe. The cat and our daughter, all of that stuff. But we ended up going, and we got to hang out with Sean, and he helped our live pre-show performance, and he sang, because Rick likes to gather a band when we travel, and so he'll come out with percussion and musicians and stuff and get that party going, and then I'll come out with like, you know, a crazy burlesque number. But yeah, so love Sean, love him.
That's awesome. Small world, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, horror is, right?
Well,
yeah.
Jim and I actually made that bond when he was in my 5th grade class. Jim is my 5th grade student.
It's true.
And we bonded over horror when he was in 5th grade. So
wow.
we've stayed in touch all these years. And Jim, when he got involved in the podcast and the Horrific Network, was kind enough to invite me to participate. That's one thing about Jim too. He's so giving in terms of, you know, he wants to share his experiences. He's really enjoying what he does right now, but he doesn't just want to keep it all for himself. He wants to share it with his friends, which has been a lot of fun for me. I'm doing things I never thought I would do.
Well, that's sweet. That's sweet of you to say, man.
What a history. That's so incredible.
Yeah.
How lucky.
Yeah, we are lucky. We are lucky that we became adult friends, and we've had some fun and very interesting experiences as adults.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll leave it at that, Charlie.
Yes, we'll leave it at that.
It is really cool that horror now more than ever, man, seems to be like this. It's almost there was a famous thing. I love pro wrestling, and there was this rivalry back in the 2000s: John Cena versus CM Punk. And John Cena, when he became like John Cena that everyone now thinks of, he originally was kind of like the anti-authoritarian, got to keep him down type guy. And CM Punk was also anti-authoritarian, but he was above everybody. And there's a famous line where he says, "John Cena, you hate the Yankees so much you haven't even realized you've become the Yankees." And he's like addressing the fact that like you had all these kids wearing John Cena shit and all this other stuff. And my point in bringing that up, where now it almost seems like the horror genre is, we're used to it being the stepchild. We're used to like going to an Academy Awards and not even expecting a composer to get anything. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it was like growing up a horror fan. You would get laughed at. And now it's like, my God, like I have kids. My day job, I work with special needs high school students, resource class, and I have students that were sophomores wearing like Killer Clowns from Outer Space stuff. And it's like they're going back and they're refinding this stuff. And when you talk to them, they know what they're talking about. And it's really kind of crazy because I can't get them to do their homework. But when you want to talk about like Poltergeist 2 and the villain in that movie being ridiculously terrifying, they're all for it. And then it's wild. So the horror genre really is kind of the Yankees, but it's out of like sincerity, like sincere fandom. It's not just like a poser thing. It's pretty cool to actually see.
Yes, how refreshing, isn't it? I mean, and also weird because like there's a tiny bit of me is like, oh, I earned this. Like, do you know how hard it was to find this horror stuff or to get this one shirt in this, like, you couldn't get it online. You know what I mean? So it was like through blood, sweat, and tears trying to like gather my collection of horror or my knowledge. It's like checking out books at the library or going into like little used bookstores or something like that. So it was like a sense of like earning it. But I do love how broad horror is. And so it's like most likely there's something to talk about with everybody. And I love hearing that with the kids so interested in horror, and our daughter is very interested in horror. And I've actually been watching all the classics and all my favorite films. Like we just finished the whole the whole Final Destination series because we want to go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Which is so exciting to share that with her because now she's like, oh, I finally get it now. I get the plot. So it's really fun. And then there's been also things like maybe some stuff that like terrify me, she finds hilarious because she's used to jump scares where that was like kind of a new thing, but she's such a cool kid. She has a metal lunchbox of John Carpenter's The Thing, like screen grabs of it, and she brings that to school every single day. And her friend group are all into like horror. I actually want to start like some kind of like a horror club for them to like have them over during summer and do pizza and like kind of like teach them about the classics and things like that.
Yeah.
But I love that kids are so, I mean, I feel like everybody's really into horror. But yeah, I understand. Like I think a lot of people in horror have been super gypped with Oscars. I mean, like so crazy. Yeah. Oh, she wants me to show it. This is her lunchbox. It's a little beat up, but
oh, cool.
Right on.
I want it
every day, right? Yeah.
No, that's awesome to hear that that they are interested, and it's universal too. Like movies that, like you said, you just did like the rewatch of the Final Destination. It's like that's a genre thing. Like not to pick on romantic comedy, but like you're not going to sit there and rewatch a line of non-horror movies nearly as much as you are horror movies. Like rewatching the Saw franchise, for instance. Like,
oh man, yeah,
people sit there and binge that. You know what I'm saying?
But Return of the Living Dead Part 3, if I remember the reviews, got a lot of positive feedback because of the relationship in the movie, right? Wasn't that one of the things that people pointed out, was that separated it from the other movies in the series, and also gave it a lot of positive. There was a lot of positive response to that.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of a zombie take on like Romeo and Juliet.
Yes, exactly.
So it had a lot of heart and brains. But yeah, I mean, also the character of Julie, it was so radical that it was like to stifle her hunger and not kill her boyfriend was self-mutilation, which has been a really interesting aspect that I'm having to create because I want to have, the glass shards and everything.
Oh yeah.
All these piercings and things for, the performance on Saturday, June 7th in
right.
We can throw it back up here. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, look at how killer she is. I love the character design, the practical, makeup on her. I love her.
Yeah.
It's
incredible.
And I know you gave, kind of a preview on your social media specifically of your glove.
Oh yeah, it's like in the half phase, but yeah, it's like
it looks really dead on, dude. I'm telling you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I wish I mean, because it's a live performance and it's not like on camera. Oh, my daughter brought it by, so here it is.
Yeah.
I've got to cut a few pieces on it to make it more screen accurate. But I have some flexibility with the costume and my version of Julie, because audience is going to see it from, you know, like 10 feet away. So it doesn't have to be ultra accurate, even though I would prefer that. But in this case, I have to keep Brian safe and not poke his eyes out with like one single, you know, armature wire. So I made it extra safe, and I did double.
Yeah.
But I hand sewed, and you know, I mean, I don't do any metal working, but man, this was tough. I had to like adjust the metal that I was using, and I think I have like a shard of metal somewhere in my finger because it keeps on bothering me.
Oh gosh.
So what we do, we suffer for our art, right?
Lon Chaney Jr. I mean, Lon Chaney Sr.
Yes, I mean both. I love them both.
You know, and Saturday, if you are not, let's for a moment just kind of pretend that you don't know who Brian Yuzna is. This guy, if you're a listener or watcher of this show, has his name attached to some of, you know, your favorite horror movies without you realizing that you know who he is. And I'm talking about Return of the Living Dead 3, obviously, director, Bride of Reanimator, director. As far as writing goes, the Honey I Shrunk the Kids TV show, Honey I Shrunk Ourselves. These are movies, Honey I Shrunk the Kids, movies that like shaped my childhood, man. Producer, of course, Bloody Bridget. You have things like he was a producer in the original Reanimator, Return of the Living Dead 3. I mean, the guy is really a horror, not just horror, but a film legend. And he's going to be up there on the stage getting God knows what happens to him by Anastasia Elfman. And that is an opportunity that is going to be like few and far between, man. Where can you say you went to an event and you saw Anastasia Elfman do a burlesque act that ended in Brian Yuzna biting the dust? That is like one hell of a conversation starter, let me tell you what. And you can be there on this Saturday, June 7th, and you're going to get the screening of A Living Dead 3 and a Q&A with Brian, and of course the burlesque pre-show by Miss Anastasia Elfman. Man, like, you gotta get there, gotta check it out. You know, having that, you mentioned your Bloody Bridget thing, horror hostess show that's going to be coming up, which is super dope. You have, of course, the Bloody Bridget show, or the movie rather, that has toured and been shown worldwide. You guys just posted about doing a Zoom like Q&A with a festival that was screening it overseas, which is really cool. Like, you guys, you Elfmans are taking over the world, man. They Danny, you know, your brother-in-law, I thought was really cool. I haven't watched enough videos of it because I want to wait until I'm there in person to like have the real world reaction to it. But we live in a world now where there's a Universal Monsters theme park land, and you know, your brother-in-law got to do the soundtrack to it, and my God, people are just murdering each other over the vinyl record of it. It's insane. But yeah, man, the Elfmans are on the scene, and you know, Richard, Anastasia are definitely a fun part to just watch progress and get bigger and bigger with the Bloody Bridget stuff and beyond. You know, getting to see your shows like this, man, it's always so rad to get to talk to you, and I can't wait to see you the horror hostess show become a thing that's going to be streaming somewhere and we can watch it, and whatever Richard has cooped up in his mind manifest itself. Like, it's always fun, and I always love having you on the show, so thank you so much for coming on board, man.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, and thanks for giving me this platform to talk about just everything, and just to bring it back to the festival. So the festival had Eric Eichelberger, so Shakagogo Film Festival, and that's on Saturday, June 7th. And so Brian Yuzna is also screening Society, which is incredible to see that on the big screen. So that's going to happen, I think, at like midnight, right after Return of the Living Dead. And so I'm also going to be, besides doing this Bloody Burlesque pre-show for Return of the Living Dead, afterwards, I'm going to be moderating a crazy Q&A with Brian and some of the cast from both films. So that's going to happen, and I'm going to ask him all the juicy, gooey questions. Mm-hmm. And then also some of our friends, like Joe Dante, is going to be screening Piranha and The Howling, and then there's a Hellraiser 2 screening that day. So it's a lot of fun for your horror fans. So it's I would probably get the festival pass, or you can buy individual tickets, whatever you want to do. But just come to Return of the Living Dead 3 screening event. See Brian lose his brains and guts and try to answer questions with whatever brains he's got left over.
And in the best environment too, man. Now that you're saying that it's accompanied by all this other things, it really is like a full day of getting. That's one thing. Whenever these opportunities exist to see them in this environment, it really is cool. So now you're getting, with the festival pass you mentioned, you're getting to watch all the movies, in that setting that, in some cases, maybe they haven't been seen like that in 10, 15, 20 years. Yeah. So you're getting the opportunity to really do something pretty rad.
Yeah, that's kind of one of my favorite pastimes when I have time, is to go into the theater. And we're lucky. Okay, so we have a lot of art theaters like Quentin Tarantino's The New Beverly or the Vista. Mm-hmm. We've got also like Alamo Draft House in downtown LA, but they screen a lot of older classics, a lot of fun horror films. And that is my favorite thing to do, is to go watch one of my favorite films on the big screen with a huge sound system, the way that it was intended to be viewed. Yeah. And that's I'm not religious, but that is my church, is a cinema and a theater and a great sound system. Like, that's where I love to go.
That is one thing, man. My brother-in-law and my sister-in-law, they live in, downtown LA. Their apartment building, their apartment is like right next to, I'm not even sure what it's called anymore, but it was at one point the Staples Center. But last time I was visiting him down there not too long ago, we went to the New Beverly and saw Django, and it was really, really fun, man. This was really cool.
Yeah, super fun. I love this because also they'll have those kind of little theaters you want to support, because there's such interesting programming happening, and unique titles, old classics. Sometimes they'll have like cartoon screenings, just really different wild stuff. And I love helping as much as my dollars can support. It's like I love keeping those kind of things going, because it's like those programmers, they're doing so much work, and just making a fun, safe space for all of us like crazy film geeks.
Mm-hmm. No, and it's cool that that's one thing that you don't see a whole lot. It was really cool to hear Tarantino say that he'll keep the Beverly in business as long as he's able to, just because he loves that fact that it is a special, a church-like thing, is a great call. Beverly is really cool because too it brings back to intimacy of watching it with a group of people that you don't get that. I love the fact that I can go into a movie and put my feet up and lean back and almost lay down if you want to, as you sit there and you watch, whatever it is you're watching in the luxury movie theater. That's great. But especially when it comes to like the weird and the grindhousey and the horror and all that stuff, movie theaters like the New Beverly, where the theater seats are old school. You got to line up around the block if you want a good seat. Like that was the one thing that kind of blew my mind for a midnight showing. The line was still wrapped around, and people were excited, and it was cool, man. It is cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know how comfortable the New Beverly seating is. The Alamo Draft House is great. I mean, I love all of them, and then also so Tarantino has another theater called the Vista, and it has like his Pam's coffee shop right next door, and they have this huge theater. I think it seats like 450 people. I recently went there as a date with my husband. He surprised me with going to see Sinners. I don't know if you guys have seen
it. We've seen it.
So like with the sold out crowd, it was so great. And I love it because the programmers show these fun like trailers and commercials and cartoons. And I just love that. That's kind of the special thing that I also love putting into my own screening events. Like I love to be in control of like the music that the audience are going to hear when they come in, the little trailers that they're going to see on the screen before the show starts. Even I've had chances in the past where I've been able to come up with a cool themed cocktail or three. I love just the immersive experience that you can create when you take the time to like think about it. And then I always, because I'm a huge fan of everything, these like genre films that I help support, it's like I come at it from the fan's perspective. So it kind of makes it a little special, unique.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. The more that you get to do stuff like that, the more intimate it makes the whole thing feel. It's one thing, now that movie theaters are doing more and more of is bringing back like the themed drinks or the specials things too. I'm seeing that more and more. The popcorn bucket craze of 2023 to 2025 has been wild to watch, and now it's hit the movie theaters and people losing it. Like people were flipping out over the fact that, I don't know if you've seen the Megan 2 popcorn bucket yet.
Is it the one like
her like head like folds
yeah,
up?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. I mean, I think I love the Nosferatu one, where it was like the casket.
Oh yeah, that one was
I didn't
rad.
get one of those, but I did get a Beetlejuice popcorn bucket, so that was cool. But I love like little themed things like that. So I'm like one of the pigeons that what my grandparents would call like the suckers.
Yeah.
I buy that.
That's like we have.
So I like to collect. Rick is like the opposite. He is not sentimental at all. And I'm like, we have to keep these things. Like, you can't get rid of them. It's Audrey's inheritance, our daughter. Get like wheat back pennies and movie ticket stubs and a bunch of Lon Chaney Sr. like merch and collectibles.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's like that sounds a lot like you and him sound exactly like my parents, where my mom is like, this is this China set, this is when this was used, this is when we have this is why this is special. And my dad's like, hopefully by the time it happens, half of this stuff will be gone. And it's just like
Rick is always trying to get me to get rid of stuff, and I'm like, we almost have all of like the costumes from Bloody Bridget. Like as soon as I try to get rid of something, it's going to become of value, and then you're going to be marking your words, like
yeah.
But I don't know. I'm sentimental. I keep like concert, like those lanyards. I keep the wristbands. I write on there. you know, like, oh, this was from this concert. Oh, this is from Danny's concert. Oh, this, you know, like I'm crazy, but in a healthy, in a healthy way.
Obsessive way.
I keep
Yes. Well, I think all creators to a certain extent have to be obsessive,
Right.
because the amount of work and time and effort that I pour into these goofy projects that I do, you know, like if I wasn't obsessive, I would go insane, or my work would you know, suffer for it, because
Right.
I'm able to watch or listen to my favorite music or movies over and over and dissect it and be able to copy certain movements. Like I'm studying Julie. Oh my God, I'm studying her movements so much to put that into my choreography. So if a fan watches, they would see, oh, that's from that moment. You know, that's what I did with my Sante Sangre number. There was this whole moment with mother, and she was like using her arms and things like that. And it's like a fan who would see that, they would be able to know what that was from. And so that's what I mean. I'm doing this for fans.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Everybody else can just come party with us anyways.
Yeah, that's one thing too, is I've never seen anyone get turned away from anything horror. Like, and it's always come on in. And you may get freaked the fuck out, but you're welcome to get freaked the fuck out. The other thing that's cool about all the stuff that you guys are doing too is you are always interacting. It seems like your followers, fans, family, like they all, it seems like you seem to treat them with, you know, love and respect, and you always, you know, give people, that's one thing that, you know, people will always complain about, like they didn't even give me the time of day, no matter how busy you guys are. You always, like, if you post something online and it sparks a convo, you are always in the convo, which is cool to see.
Oh, that's so kind of you to say. Thank you for noticing. I mean, I'm so lucky. I mean, it's a lot of hard work. It's 24/7. You know, like I don't remember the last time I had an actual vacation. Like you know, it's been touring with the film, but that's, you know, I'm lucky if I see outside of my hotel room or outside of the theater. Like I never get to like visit the actual towns because I want to get home and be with, you know, my daughter and the cat. But yeah, I mean, I'm so privileged and honored to be doing, to be able to play pretend. Like that was my happy place when I was a kid, to play pretend and to imagine. And I it's my favorite thing in the world. And I'm just so lucky that there's other people out there who also like to play pretend, or that resonate with my inspirations or with my work in some way. I mean, I'm not very well known, but I feel very honored and lucky to have a very small fan base of, I like to call them my dumb babies. And they're, you know, everybody's great. And I get a lot of people or fans of, you know, come to me because of Rick or Danny, which is great too, because I'm also a huge fan of theirs. So I'm in great company. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's like what we do. It's just like your podcast and all of the crazy events that you guys do or are a part of. It's like, this is probably your happy place as well. Like you guys like talking to creators and you like talking about like genre and films and sharing that with people. And that's what I feel like. And actually, it's been very weird because recently people have been noticing me when I go out. And it's not great because I don't look like this 24/7. So when I'm like in my baseball hat, trying to get through Whole Foods, trying to get my macaroni and cheese, because I'm like a vegetarian, but I survive mainly on different types of macaroni and cheese and coffee. So it's been an interesting thing to like be like, oh no, you don't want to talk to Rick? Like, do you want me to get a selfie with you and Rick? Or like, and then they're like, oh no, I'm a fan of yours. I'm like, oh my God. Let me know, because like I'm shy. Like I don't talk to people. It's a weird experience. I bet, you know, it's like with your popularity with the podcast, it's like I imagine, you know, at like different cons, it's like people recognize you, and then it's so it takes you outside of yourself, because I'm like, what? Like,
No, it's
what
funny.
happened?
It's funny because my wife's thing is definitely not horror. So that's like the joke is how did we become such a thing when I'm on stage and I'm interviewing these people at the con, and there was one time we were setting up the video camera for Sinister Creature Con, getting stuff ready, and my wife Donna, uh, she's basically having me give her the talk of who everybody is, and that way when she is helping Charlie escort people to the stage, she doesn't say something and embarrass herself. and and I'm filling her in on who everybody is, and we're walking down the row as the guests or the patrons are starting to take their seats for this upcoming panel. And one of the guys, first guys to sit down, tells her, Jimmy is your husband, like he's the coolest. And my my back is to her, and I had the biggest shitting grin on her face or on my face, and I can just hear her go, uh-huh. Yeah, uh-huh.
She's okay,
And
I guess.
thank you so much for coming. The but overall, man, the fact that you do take the time, and you're very modest when you say small fan base, because I know how popular the Bloody Bridget name is becoming, and there are people who are definitely eagerly waiting to see what you have coming next. And obviously, Richard to the indie horror community is very important, and he has a name for himself, and obviously everybody knows who his brother is, Danny, and everything that he has accomplished in not the indie horror world at all, but the cinema world. But you, ma'am, Anastasia Elfman, you have become a figure in the horror community, whether you like it or not. Your fan base is here. You are, it was funny because right around the time I met you, a year before I met you, I met David Howard Thornton. And I remember, he is a repeat guest at the convention I mentioned. And through his career, he's been a repeat panelist, and I've talked to him, and the conversations were very similar to the conversations I've had with you as your name has progressed in the horror industry. You're going to be something, kid. You are. So, it is exciting to get to talk to you as often as we do, and, talk about horror movies. And no, you said it in the interview, one of us. Like,
No, that's so kind of you to say. I mean, it's all thanks to you guys, and like luckily, okay, because I get, with dyslexia, sometimes I get like these brain farts, and I asked you like, oh, like give me a little heads up if we're going to be talking about something crazy, because I want to give an authentic response instead of being shocked in the background, and so I want to be able to correctly, say what I mean, let's say. But yeah, so before Bloody Bridget, because like it's self-financed and I star in it. So now I've got to come up to the plate and I got to perform and I've got to do, the press tour, which is great. But so before that, I had never really done any podcasts because they always made me nervous, or interviews because it just made me nervous because I felt like, oh, I don't know everything about everything. I'm going to stumble. But I've actually found such a close-knit community with all of these horror podcast interviewers, just like right now with you guys. And it's like I come back time and time again to like promote the stuff that I'm doing and get to hear about everything that you guys are doing. And I just love the sense of community that I've just recently become a part of. And it's so fun for me. And honestly, it's like my little, tiny little fan base is all thanks to you guys helping to promote my stuff. So like, gosh, I mean, I don't know what to say to all of that. It's so kind. I mean, I could tear up right now. It's so kind to hear. And it's giving me motivation to, after this, get back to making Brian's brain.
So again, man,
Saturday, right?
You know, Anastasia, you just exude a joyfulness in what you do that people just respond to. I mean, just in this interview, I mean, I've watched your work before and I've seen it in your work, and it just sets you apart. It really does. When you see a performer who has such joy in what they do, it's like people respond to that. They want to see more. So I mean, that's all you. I mean, that's all that great personality you have, and that honesty and purity. It's amazing to watch. We're just big fans. We're big fans.
You guys are so kind. I can't even say, like, honestly, this is like such an ego boost, but I take it all so to heart. And honestly, like, you know, like in the horror community, it's funny because not everybody is actually a fan of horror, or even actors. They're not even I've run across many actors who aren't even fans of watching movies and stuff. So I think it's great when I find people who are actually fans and that I can talk, because I'll tell you, it's so boring out here. Not being able to talk to anybody about like anything important, like, you know, did you know that Lon Chaney Sr. would have been Dracula if he hadn't suddenly passed away? You know, like things like that. This is my favorite stuff. So I'm glad that people notice, because I just want to continue to talk about horror and do crazy events like this and do fun, crazy films, which I hear is coming my way from you.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
That is one thing definitely that I cannot wait to have, and we will definitely have you guys on hopefully again between now and July, because July is gonna some fun stuff we have coming definitely to announce, man. And I'm like I was telling the cast of Ghost Executioners, because we were literally going through, and the whole story of that film, it's like beyond imagination, man. We made that film. It was funny at the Oscars when they were talking about the film Anora, that won, you know, it pretty much swept this year's Oscars. It won a bunch of awards.
Yeah.
And the guy, I don't know who it was. I don't think it was Conan. I think it was the director of Anora, said something about like it's $6 million independent budget. And I was like, if your film budget ends with the word million, that is not an independent film. And like it's just not, man. And so like we made our film, man, for under $1,500 for everything that I had already accumulated through film school, to, you know, buying new shit and paying for food for everyone and gas for everyone, and, you know, throwing down some bucks for the property we filmed on, and, you know, the whole true indie experience, you know what I'm saying? And it was a labor of love, and that's what, you know, film is meant to be. But like I said, horror films are more, and, you know, there's nothing better feeling, and I would believe this for any film budgetary thing, when you're on a film set and things go better than you hoped. And like when you just come off of what was like a really rad day of filming, and you like, you know, like your actors, you know, went home happy and satisfied, and they put forth their best performance, and, you know, everything with where you were filming is good, and, you know, nothing on your camera got broken, and, you know, you just had like the best day. That is a feeling that it's funny to hear you talk about performing live, because before I got into film, I was a theater kid. I was doing Shakespeare. I was doing, Midsummer's Night's Dream in a dress, every day, and I was doing the whole thing. And I love performing live in front of people. I think that's kind of why I started the podcast, because in the back of my head, podcast equals doing meetups and doing shit live in front of people. You know what I'm saying? And the experience of performing live in front of people I can only compare to the perfect day filming stuff. So I love that, you have experienced both and how it is. And, that's one thing about why, I love your guys' work so much, is because, especially when it comes to indie film, you know, the movies like Sean's and the movies like yours, that is, throughout all of this, horrific network stuff, it's kind of like you look to the people that are, 10 steps ahead of you as kind of the guiding light to what your motivation is. You're seeing, their work. So I'm seeing, Richard's early work or Bloody Bridget, and it's like you're watching it as a fan, but as a student too. And so it's cool to get to know you as, again, you have progressed, because it's like you're our buddy, but it's like a mentorship, you know what I mean? Like, you get it, what it is to put your fandom to the extreme and create with it. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally a dream come true, because because I'm a dancer and a musician, it's like I already think in dance, and I already create these kind of scenarios. I have been for a majority of my life. Like, I get so inspired by music and imagery, and it's like I create these type of things anyways. So, like, what the hell? Why not do it in front of an audience?
For sure.
Yeah, man, the thrill of getting to do it live. That's one thing I think is cool, is that you kind of like ask people to not record it on their phones. That way they're in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I try not. The thing about it's like, for me, it's like I love burlesque artists like Dita Von Teese, who moves very slowly and is beautiful in every single angle and shot. That is not me. I am like a goblin coming at you quick and insane. And so it's difficult, because I choreograph and build these numbers and experiences for in person, for the audiences. So if somebody gets and records my whole number, it's not going to have the same intensity as I'm in your face and I'm about to like rip your heart out or something like that, So I need my team to only do the video, and then I can do some quick edits, to show the way that I envision everything to happen. But sure. Yeah, I mean, a good edit can, either make or break a project, let's say.
For sure.
You know what I mean? It's like we've all seen those long, drawn-out movies, and then we've seen a nice, tight, quick edit, and it's, it's life or death.
Yeah.
There's the same with live performance, I would say. So, yeah. So just come see me perform live.
Definitely.
Don't video it. Don't put it up. I'll do that myself.
So again, this Saturday live performance, 9:45, Return of the Living Dead screening, a pre-burlesque performance by our own guest here, Anastasia Elfman, and the great Brian Yuzna, and then a Q&A following the film. This is all part of the Shaka Go-Go Film Festival, which sounds like a really, really rad time, man. I would suggest buying, like Anastasia said earlier, the festival pass and just chilling there and enjoying the day, seeing your favorite films on the screen. Where can everybody kind of keep track of you, man? Like, where can they see what you got cooking?
Well, I have our website, so AnastasiaElfman.com, BloodyBridget.com. Rick keeps really on track of things, so I would also follow him at RichardElfman.com. And then I'm on most of the social media, so Facebook, Anastasia Elfman. On Instagram, I'm a little tricky to find right now. I'm under my stage name, Dahlia DeMont. But once I figure out how to switch it without losing everything, it will be Anastasia Elfman. But right now I've got two, it's a mess. But yeah, so Facebook and Instagram. I have a TikTok. I don't like it, but I do. And then I have a YouTube, which everybody should subscribe to because almost nobody is. So that's Anastasia Elfman on the YouTube.
Yeah, and we will link,
Sure.
Anastasia's stuff on the show notes. So you guys, if you're, watching this or listening, you guys will see links to her, YouTube channel specifically, and everything else for you. And I thank you so much again for taking the time to be on our show. Cannot wait to do it again. And if you definitely can be there on Saturday, get there on Saturday, man.
Yes. Thank you both for having me, and so nice to chat with you both. Jimmy and Charlie, I mean, so wild because we're like best friends on Facebook. Come follow me on Instagram too. I do more posts there. I like the stories there. Okay, thank you so much. This was
Thank you, Anastasia.